Oh, you did?
Hi, good morning.
I have a couple of these bells at home from the Southern Maryland Blue Crabs. But this one is from, I got it some tourism thing, Hatfield and McCoy. Anyway, well, welcome. I hope everybody had a peaceful night, restful night. Where's my stuff? Wait a minute. Guess my mind is in here too. Oh, here it is. Okay. Before I make introductions, we'll start with our morning meditation. And again, this little booklet will last you the rest of July and all of August if you need it. St. Paul spends much of the 8th chapter of his letter to the Romans teaching about the Holy Spirit. Yet for all of Paul's words, the Holy Spirit can often be an afterthought in our daily lives. What does the Spirit do? Paul says that the Spirit is our source of life. He says the Spirit lives in us and shows us how to live for God. He says that the Spirit reminds us that we are God's children. Best of all, he says that the Holy Spirit comes to the aid of our weakness. We all have weaknesses, don't we? One weakness we face is the way we respond to suffering or hardship. Temptation, sickness, addiction, division in families, financial problems, natural disasters. Any of these challenges can leave us fearful and overwhelmed if we try to face them on our own. But with the help of the Spirit, we can start to see things from God's perspective and find the strength we need to keep moving forward. Another weakness can be our struggle with prayer. The Spirit loves to help us pray. He helps us speak to God from our hearts and not just through rote prayers. He gives us a desire to pray for our loved ones, and He gives us the reassurance that our prayers have been heard. It's easy to think that it's just us, that we are doing it all by ourselves. But this is just not true. Every holy thought that we have and every loving action that we take have their origin in the Holy Spirit. Every day, in good times and bad, the Spirit is with us, teaching us to ask God for what we need and filling us with grace. So when you find the strength to push onward in a trying time, a renewed desire to love people, or a new insight into how to solve a problem, rejoice in the Holy Spirit coming to your aid. Just several announcements. The books over here on these couple of tables, they have a sticker, a white sticker somewhere on them. Like this one says $7. All the books over here are half price for whatever that sticker price is. If it says $5, the book is $2.50. So everything is half price. Also, I asked on the way in, my roommate gave me a list of questions as a reminder to find out and let you all know. Well, breakfast is a little late for this, but breakfast hours are 7 to 9. But lunch hours, if you have a meal ticket for the cafeteria part, lunch hours are 11 to 2. But if you didn't get a meal ticket, they'll take a credit card or cash. The food's pretty good. If you're checking out today or whenever you check out, You do bring your room key, and if you're staying on campus, you do bring your room key back here to this building downstairs at the information desk. You turn your keys into the information desk in Priz Hall or Priz Center. As far as your blanket and pillows and linens, just leave them alone in your room. Housekeeping will come through. Leave all towels, sheets, whatever, in the room. You don't have to worry about them. Don't strip your bed or anything like that. They'll take care of it. If you're flying somewhere and you'd like to do a computer printed boarding pass, if you go to the library today, you can print out the boarding pass. They have more printers there. And the library is in the Mullen, M-U-L-L-E-N, I guess, building. And you'll have to look on your map to see where that is. And the library is open today from 1 to 5. If you miss that, they have the ability or capability to print your boarding pass downstairs at the information desk. They do not want to be bombarded with a bunch of people at one time. They have one printer that it's connected with the copy machine. So if possible, it's better if you go to the library, but as a last resort, you can use the information center downstairs. If you need to call a cab to take you to the airport, over in my tote bag, I forgot to get it out, but they gave me one copy. It's 2 pages of different cab companies. So you can borrow it to write down the cab number and give it back, because somebody else might need it also. And that's it for that. The next thing is, in your pocket folder, whatever color it is, you should have an evaluation form. We would really, really appreciate getting that back. And as an incentive for you to give it back, for anybody that turns in their evaluation form this afternoon, you will be given like a 50-50 ticket or a raffle ticket. And we have some door prizes. And they were all donated. And you can get you can come over and pick up a door prize. Before I show you what the grand prize is, which we'll give to the first number drawn, down about midway down is a display packet of Vince Freeze's program for you to review. But the first ticket drawn, assuming that the person is here, if you're not here, we don't have any way of knowing which person has that number. We'll get a copy of the program. If you're not here, then it'll go to the next number until we give it away. But anyway, that one is only display. But we have other stuff up here too. So that's an incentive for you to do your evaluation. And that's about all the announcements I have. I don't know if any other board member has an announcement. Okay. Come on in. All right, I'll see me later on, and I'll tell you what the announcements were. The only thing I'll tell you now, well, I'll see you later, so I don't have to repeat them for everybody. And our next speaker wasn't able to attend this weekend due to family situation at home. So Kelly Kloss was going to be the presenter, but Julie Auzene and Steve Tartaglia partnered up over the weekend with, Julie was given a little bit of an outline, and she and Steve have developed it further, and so they will be talking to you for our first workshop. So welcome.
Thank you, Suzanne. So I'm Steve Tartaglia, and this is Julie, if you needed to have that clarified. I'm the Region 2 representative. That's Region 2 is New York State. And all of you probably know where New York State is, but to further maybe confuse you, I'm the Family Life Director in the Diocese of Ogdensburg. And if you don't know where that is in New York State, it's as far north as you can get. It's up by Montreal, Ottawa, runs along the St. Lawrence River between Lake Champlain and Lake Ontario, and it's basically most of the Adirondacks. So now you've got an idea what that's all about.
What lake did you say?
Lake Placid?
Oh yeah, Lake Placid, Saranac Lake, absolutely. So, oh, it's beautiful. So, and Julie, where are you from?
My name's Julie Auzene, and I'm from the Los Angeles Archdiocese. I'm from Los Angeles, California. I'll be telling a little bit more when I talk more about myself, but I actually work for the Office of Family Life, and they call me a consultant for the separated and divorced ministry, and I'll give you a little bit more of that, what that means also. And I have been brought in to this ministry, and I will say right now that I was here 23 or 4 years ago. It was in the 90s, and I came as a grieving participant, and never, God works in funny ways, because I would not think that I'd be now on the other side of this many years later, but I was here many years ago as a participant at a conference here also. So as I'm kind of going over the things that I'm going to say, I'll give you a little bit more insight about myself too.
And so what we were sort of hoping to do is, yesterday you were introduced to all of the regional representatives and board members that are here, but today we'd like to hear about who you are and where you're from. So if we could just kind of go around the room and just give us just a brief introduction of you.
And if you can just kind of turn so they can hear you, the ones in the front, just so they can hear you a little bit. Yeah, so we want to.
So, I'm Jane Zingelman, and I'm from the Archdiocese of Santa Fe, and I'm new to this ministry. I'm also, God Works in Funny Ways. A few years ago, I was on the grieving end. Of course, I still am, but I'm also called to the ministry to help others with their grieving process through divorce or separation.
Hi, good morning. I'm Del Maddy. I'm the Associate Director of Family Ministry at the Diocese of Joliet, which is a suburb of Chicago, where I oversee divorce enrollment, the NFP teachers, and also divorced, widowed, and the bereaved.
Alex?
Oh, I thought I heard you.
Oh, I'm sorry, yeah, you.
You don't know that. I am a representative for New Jersey and Pennsylvania for the CDM and Region 3. My name is Juliana Lanka.
Yes. I'm Alex. I'm Alex Helptruck from Toronto. I'm a staff at an agency called Catholic Family Services. And as part of my many duties, I'm also a club coordinator of a program called New Beginnings, which trains and facilitates support groups throughout the Archdiocese for the separated and divorced and grieving loss of a partner.
Good.
And I'm Elizabeth Simpson. I'm from Shawnee, Oklahoma. I'm with the Archdiocese of Oklahoma City, or I'm a member of the Archdiocese of Oklahoma City. I have been in ministry in my church for over 30 years with RCIA. I've been divorced 2 years, and I am interested in developing a program for our diocese. We lack that, so.
Regina, just introduce yourself too.
I'm Regina Stallo. I'm from the St. Louis Archdiocese as just a representative, and I work with them. I am regional representative.
I'm Sister Angela Marie. I'm a late vocation. I'm really from Hudson Valley, New York, and I've only been out in Steubenville, Ohio, about a year and a half.
Oh, good.
And met up with Pam and her group. I was married 18 years, divorced, annulled.
Okay.
And they were a small group that was doing a divorce, one of the programs. Got very interested in it, and I'm working with the bishop and vicar out there of possibly starting a program for divorce.
Good.
Hi, I'm Pamela Shea from Steubenville, Ohio, and as Sister Angela said, I've been leading divorced and separated and widowed small group at a Catholic camp each summer. We have 5 different groups that come in from all over the country, more of an informal, one-shot deal, hour and a half, and that's it for the year. And I also work with the Ohio Valley Youth Network, in the region, a nonprofit organization that is ecumenically based, and we're trying to pull together the Catholic parishes and the Pentecostal churches and the Lutheran churches to collaborate to penetrate the youth culture with the gospel of Jesus Christ. And praise God, we've been able to start 11 Bible studies on 11 different public school campuses, which is a miracle and has not been legally challenged. There have been 2 complaints, and both were not legally, but they were both defended, and it didn't amount to anything. And amazingly, we recently started a Bible study at the secular community college campus, which is called Eastern Gateway. It's the first Christian club in the history of that college.
Wow.
Thanks for sharing. That's very wonderful.
I'm Brad Gray. I'm the Director of Marriage and Family Life for the Diocese of Fargo in North Dakota. And I went through divorce myself back nearly 20 years ago. So I had 2 daughters that were 2 and 11 months at that time, so they've lived their whole lives in that situation. Prior to becoming the Director of Marriage and Family Life 2 years ago, I was doing carpentry for 10 years. And when the opportunity to help families avoid what I'd gone through came up, that's what I wanted to do.
Yes, I'm Gabriel Lee. I'm from Hong Kong, and I'm the representative from my organization, which is the Hong Kong Catholic Marriage Advisory Council, which include, for example, pre-marriage surveys, marriage counseling, divorce surveys, something like that. So.
Good. Welcome. Thank you for coming so far. That's great. Wonderful.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Patrick Calan. I'm an individual participant from the Archdiocese of Washington. I live in Gaithersburg, Maryland. I heard about this conference word of mouth, so here I am.
Great. Good.
I'm Jason Kidd, marriage and family life guy for Portland, Oregon.
Big
Bob
population.
Sutliff, I'm the Director of Engagement, Adult Engagement, not that I'm helping people get engaged. Engaging the adults at our parish in faith formation, and anyway, in a conversation with the pastor, I said, there are people in our parish that are divorced. We should do something about that.
Yeah.
Not that we didn't know that, but So I was going to sign up for the conference that's coming, but I saw this instead, and this is more of what I need to do. So, and I work in the Archdiocese of Baltimore, so I just walked here this morning.
Oh, yeah. Great.
So I'm Greg Mills, the incoming president for CDM again. Thanks for being here. For the year, for my whatever it's called, term, I want to focus on health and wellness. We know that there is pain and conflict. We know there's plenty of negatives that go along with this topic. But I view it as a God-centered healing plan. That's how we focus. That's how I focus. And I liken it to going to the doctor. I mean, if you got a problem, you don't go see the doctor to talk about the problem and how it started and why it hurts, right? You go to talk about how to get well. And that's what I would like to see our focus be.
I'm Angela Falco, and I'm the Diocese of Baton Rouge, Louisiana, and I am the incoming Vice President, and Region 5 is my region, Louisiana, Mississippi, Tennessee, Kentucky, I believe. And I work for St. Aloysius Catholic Parish in Baton Rouge, and I'm Director of Pastoral Services.
Hello, I'm Chris Hess from the Diocese of Erie, Pennsylvania, and I am the Director of the Family Life Office there, and we are currently running a divorced ministry that is rather new. We just started last September, and hoping to get some more ideas on how to keep that flourishing.
Good, great.
I'm Mary Ann Agnoli. I do with the Marriage and Family Life at Diocese of Davenport in Iowa, and I'm just here to find out what's available, what works. I would love to talk to anyone who has some success in some of these opportunities and how best we can serve. We're small and limited budget, and so I want to do the most I can with the little resources.
Great, great, good, and that's what we're hoping is now, you know, that networking that could happen. Do you think we're done? I think
so.
they can just take over
Well,
now.
welcome to all of you. Thank you for sharing
Yeah,
with us.
thank you.
Oh, Suzanne, I'm sorry.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. Oh, she's so, I'm on my baby.
I'm
Sorry.
Suzanne Carr, and I'm from Southern Maryland, about an hour south of here. I was very active in our local ministry back in the late 70s through the mid 90s, and I was on the committee when we had the conference here in 1993, and got out of the ministry for a while, and we had a regional vacancy, so I went to be interviewed to be the regional rep and came out very involved. And, most days I'm glad I did.
Well, thank you again. And what we'd like to do today is Julie and I are going to talk to you about some of the tools that we can share with you to work in your ministry of helping divorced and separated families. So what I'd like to do is start off by saying this. As Greg mentioned, we're going to focus on healing. And part of helping people to heal, one of the things that we as family life and divorce ministers can offer to people is a sense of hope. We can help them to have hope. And the way that we do that, one of the ways that we can do that is by sharing our success stories with them. If we share our success stories with them, then they can ask us, well, how did that happen for you? And they can also believe with a sense of hope that that can happen for them as well. So I will start off by telling you about myself and sharing some of my successes with you. So I'm as I mentioned earlier, I'm the Region 2 representative. I'm from Ogdensburg, but I grew up in Rochester, New York. And my parents were divorced when I was a teenager. I'm the second of 6 children. I had typically, in those days, most people were having more children, and so the community that I grew up in, there was like 100 kids on our street, and all of us went to Catholic school together, and then we went to Catholic church together, and on Saturdays we were playing in football leagues, soccer leagues, baseball leagues, and we were spending our time together. And that's what we had around us, you see. This whole Catholic group of people, I thought everybody was Catholic at that stage. And then, of course, as you get older, you realize, oh, it's just your group. But after my parents divorced, let me just say, I continued on. I went to Catholic grammar school, then I went to Catholic high school. I graduated from Catholic high school, went on to community college for 2 years, and then went on to SUNY Oswego. I double majored. I was in secondary education in English, from there, I discerned a vocation to the priesthood. Actually, what I realized, I discerned that I wasn't being called to the priesthood, but that I was called to be married. But I spent 5 years discerning that vocation. So in other words, I was in seminary for 5 years. 2 years in the Diocese of Ogdensburg, and then 3 years in Baltimore at St. Mary's Seminary in Baltimore. And loved my time here in Baltimore. However, as I said, I did discern that I was called to marriage. Ironically, the bishop at that time, the Bishop of Ogdensburg at that time, he used to come and do the visits. While we were visiting, while we were talking, I was asking him some questions. He would say, do you have any concerns? And I did, and I would ask him questions. And he said, you know, you might really want to talk to the family life department people about these questions that you're having. And little would I know that 25 years later, I would be the director of that department. I didn't even know at the time that it existed. So that's kind of a funny twist. So anyways, from there I left seminary. I was just about ready to be a deacon, but it was not my calling. I was not ordained. I achieved the fullness of the laity, you know. I had all those minor orders that you get when you're in seminary, but I didn't actually get ordained. And so, but from there I dated and was engaged and then got married. And I began a career in Catholic education, and I did that for about 14 years. I started with essentially the bottom. I mean, I was proctoring tests and covering study halls, and I got my foot in the door. From there, I did have a teaching degree and certifications. I became a teacher. I taught, and then after that, I went to the U of R. I got a degree. I got a master's in administration, and I became a vice principal. And then after that, the school closed where I was, and I went back to Ogdensburg Diocese where I became a guidance counselor. And then from there, I became a vice principal again down in Maryland. And from there, I went to Rochester again, and I was a principal for a few years. And then after a couple of years of that, I realized, you know, I really feel like God's pushing me towards working with families directly. For various reasons, but I really felt that the domestic church is where people are catching and keeping and holding on to their faith. And that's who I wanted to work with directly. So I resigned, and I was hired in the current position, which is Family Life Director. So I really feel like I have a success story in all of that. And what I would say is that for people who for children of divorced families, their stories don't usually go quite that way. And what I would say is that they're usually facing quite a number of struggles. And I'll tell you what I think a few of them are, but I want to gather some of your expertise, because you're all in this ministry as well. So I would say that people who are children of divorced families will struggle a lot with anxiety. They will struggle with addictions, many of them. They will struggle with having successful relationships themselves. What else do you think they struggle with? Trusting. Shout them out.
Social isolation.
Social isolation.
Abandonment issues.
Abandonment. Anyone else?
Just physical health illnesses and actually early mortality for children of single parents.
So these are fairly typical. And in many ways, I avoided those things. In many ways. Now, I still have anxiety issues. I still have some health issues. I could stand to lose not just a few pounds. You know? And some of those are just my own choices in life, but not probably so much related to, to the divorce. But what I'm saying is, though, that by and large, I've had success. I'm in a successful marriage. I have a family. I'm a faithful Catholic. I've had leadership positions, a successful career, et cetera, and I'm ministering to people now, families, to help them to be successful. And I would guess that most of you have similar types of success stories. and that you could be sharing with the people that you minister to. So what is important for us to think about is, how do we become successful? How is it that we actually become successful? What is it that differentiates someone with a success story from someone who doesn't have a success story, or who's still struggling and isn't successful yet? And what I want to say is what I've come to really